Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, dear students. Today I am going to teach you about the structure of proteins, one of the biological molecules. So already we have learned about carbohydrates and we have learned about lipids, and now this is the third one, proteins. Okay. Now proteins, as you know, it plays a major role in our system actually. When you look at, see, proteins are as enzymes, proteins as hormones. So some of them are like structure of what you say is channel proteins, carrier proteins. So we have lots and lots of functions. And of course, if you look at hemoglobin, right, it carries oxygen. So proteins play a wide range of, let's say, functions in our body. Okay. Now, so let's see the specification first, right? So syllabus specification 2.61. Know the basic structure of an amino acid. So we need to know the structure of amino acid. Then understand 2.62. Understand the formation of polypeptides and proteins as amino acid monomers linked together by condensation reactions to form peptide bonds. And specification 2.63, understand the significance of protein's primary structure in determining its secondary structure, 3D structure and properties, and the types of bonds involved in its three-dimensional structure. Okay. And specification 2.64, know the molecular structure of a globular protein and a fibrous protein, and understand how their properties relate to their functions, including hemoglobin and collagen. So we are going to learn about hemoglobin and collagen. Okay. Now, so let's move to the first one. Okay. What is the basic unit of proteins? Okay. What is the end product of protein digestion? We know it is amino acids. Okay. So amino acids are the end products of protein digestion. Okay. Now, how to draw the structure of amino acid? Okay. Now, the basic skeleton, look at this, NCC, NCC, okay. So what you do, remember National Cadet Corps, okay. Now NCC, so here you write hydrogen, hydrogen, then this side C double bond O, OH, this side, okay. So the basic skeleton is NCC. For N, what you do, right, hydrogen, write two hydrogen, and this side COOH, and the central carbon atom, write hydrogen here. This is the residual group or variable group or alkyl group. Okay, so this is how, right, we are going to draw the structure of amino acid. So NCC, right, this side NH2, and this side COOH, the carboxylic acid group, and the central carbon atom here hydrogen, right, residual group. Okay, now so we have nearly 20 different amino acids. Okay, now. So this one will be varying for different, let us say, amino acids. It's like, assume this like a pizza base. This is a pizza base, and you know what kind of topping you are going to put. Okay, you are going to write chicken tandoori or beef or whatever you want to put. So it's the residual group is like that. Okay, so this is the base and whatever you want to add here. Okay, now so how to draw? Okay, now another one is, if they ask you describe the structure of amino acid, describe the structure of amino acid. So what are you going to say? An amino acid consists of amino group at one end, this is amino group, and a carboxylic group at the other end. Amino group at one end and a carboxylic group at the other end, and the central carbon atom consisting of a hydrogen and a residual group. So this is the description. Okay. Now, so having said this, okay, sometimes they will ask you to, it's like, they will give a question like this. Now, see, one of the past papers, they had given, this is actually the residual group for the amino acid aspartate, right? October 2019 paper, I remember. Okay, so this is the residual group for one of the amino acid aspartate. So they have given this one and ask you to draw the structure of the amino acid aspartate. Draw the structure of the amino acid aspartate. What do you do, right? Already you know the basic structure of amino acid. So what you do here? Okay, now look at this. How I'm going to attach this? See, N. So see here, let me write here, NCC, so C double bond O, OH, and this side is going to be amino group, and this is hydrogen. So what do you do? Take this part and attach it to the top. So if I have to use another color to just to differentiate, look at this, I'm just going to attach this. Okay, so here carbon, so hydrogen, this hydrogen, C, O, double bond, O. So this is the one. Look at this. This is the one. Just attach this here. That's it. Over. So if they ask you to draw, right, having given, remember, having given the residual group, right, what you do, you know everything. So instead of writing R, what you do, just attach it here. That's it. So this is how you are going to draw. Okay, so this is about amino acid. Okay. Now, how to make a condensation reaction between two amino acids? Okay, first of all, what is a condensation reaction? So in this context, I'm going to say, what is condensation reaction? Already we know, removal of water molecule by joining two amino acids and forming a peptide bond. So what is the bond formed between two amino acids here? It's a peptide bond. Okay, so removal of water molecule by joining two amino acids and forming a peptide bond. Okay, let's see how this happens. Okay, now, so NCC, so I told you already, do like this. The central carbon atom, hydrogen here. So residual group number 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going for one more, NCC, residual group number 2, and this is hydrogen and hydrogen. Okay, now the question is, okay, removal of water molecule. So which water molecule are you going to remove? Okay, or from where are you going to remove? Okay, can we react these two to remove water molecule, right? Or can we react these two? So both are right, but my advice would be always go for these two. Okay, always go for these two, because when you go for secondary structure, what happens when they are right, this one, when they are up and down, right, carboxyl group and amino group, when they are right like that, so it easily forms the hydrogen bond. So always please react these two. So when to react, what I do, see here. Now let me go in order, NCC, NCC. Okay, so C double bond O, OH. So this is hydrogen here. Okay, here residual group number 2, and so we remove that one. So this hydrogen will be here, and what happened? This would straighten up. Okay, then residual group number 1, hydrogen, and hydrogen and hydrogen. Okay, now, so after finishing this, write water. Okay, I told you to remember LBW, link, bond and water. Okay, so I have linked them, right? The water I have mentioned, and what is the bond seen here? It's a peptide bond. What is a bond? Peptide bond. So between amino acids, the bond that is formed is peptide bond always. Okay, so this is how you are going to react. Okay, if they ask you about how to make a condensation, usually they ask under 3 mark questions. You do this. Okay, so put the 2 amino acids here. Right, put the arrow. Okay, so let me put a plus here. Okay, okay. Then what you do? So react these two and remove the water molecule. Then, right, draw a line. That's a peptide bond and link them. Okay. So what is the name of this molecule now? Okay, when 2 amino acids join together. So what is the name of this? This is the dipeptide. Okay. If I attach hundreds and hundreds, what happens? It will form a polypeptide chain. When I attach 100 and 100, right, undergoing condensation reaction. So what bond will be formed? I mean, I mean, the chain will be polypeptide chain, and the bond between them will be peptide bond always. Okay. Now, anyway, one thing you see, one end will be the amino end, the other end, right? It might be very, very long. So one end will always contain amino group, the other end always contain carboxylic group. Okay, clear with this? So this is about, let's say, so what we had seen, the structure of amino acid. Okay. Then if they give you the residual group, how to draw that? Okay, whatever residual group they give you, you are just going to do this, very simple. And sometimes they will ask you to describe structure of amino acid, you can do that, and how to, right, make a condensation reaction. And supposing they ask about hydrolysis, just reverse it. What is hydrolysis? Addition of water molecule and breaking the peptide bond to form 2 amino acids. Right? Just make monomers, that's it, over. Okay, so the enzymes which are involved in that, we call them, right, the group of enzymes, proteases. Proteases are those enzymes which will, right, break down or hydrolyze, what shall I say, polypeptides to form, let's say dipeptide or even, right, amino acids. Okay, now, so this is one, and let's move on to the, right, the structures. Okay, primary structure of protein. Okay, so what is primary structure of protein? Okay, primary structure of protein, if they ask you, right, this is made up of, let us say, repeating units of amino acids. Okay, so who determined this particular amino acid sequence? Let's say base sequence on DNA determines. So what is the primary structure? The sequence of amino acids. How to start? The sequence of amino acids found in a polypeptide chain. The sequence of amino acids, right? The sequence of amino acids found in a polypeptide chain, right? Joined by peptide bonds during condensation reactions. It's a long one. Okay. The sequence of amino acids found in a polypeptide chain joined by what bond? Peptide bond during condensation reactions. Okay. Then, who determined this particular sequence? This sequence is determined by the base sequence on DNA. When you look at the antisense strand, so from there it is copied. Okay, that's it. Oh, and primary structure is very, very important. Primary structure is very, very important because that determines the secondary and the tertiary structures as well as the bonding and folding. We will see that question later. Okay. Now let me move on to the secondary structure of protein. So what is secondary structure of protein? Okay. The folding of the polypeptide chain, the long chain, the folding of the polypeptide chain into alpha helix. There are two things you can see, right? Alpha helix and beta pleated sheets. So what is secondary structure if they ask you? So how to start the answer? The folding of the polypeptide, you have already you have the primary structure, the polypeptide chain. The folding of the polypeptide chain into alpha helix, right, and beta pleated sheets. Okay, and how is this, right? Alpha helix and beta pleated sheets held? They are held by hydrogen bonds, right? They are held by hydrogen bonds. So this is what you are going to remember for secondary structure of proteins. So the next structure is, okay, tertiary structure of protein. Okay, what is tertiary structure of protein? See, sometimes they will ask you tertiary structure of protein, structure of enzyme, structure of globular protein. Okay, so the answer is going to be almost like the same. Okay, now let me say, what is tertiary structure of protein? Right, the complex three-dimensional globular shape. So what is tertiary structure? The complex three-dimensional globular shape attained by the polypeptide chain by twisting and folding around itself. Complex three-dimensional globular shape attained by the polypeptide chain by twisting and folding around itself. And this three-dimensional structure is, right, the shape is maintained by two things here. One is the bonding between the residual groups. Bonding between the residual groups. So what are the bonds here? Hydrogen bonds, ionic bonds, and disulfide bonds. So hydrogen bonds, ionic bonds, and disulfide bonds. So this is one part. Okay, and the other one is, right, and due to, right, and the folding due to hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions. So two things which maintain the shape. One is bonding between the residual groups, namely hydrogen, ionic, and disulfide, and the folding, right, it undergoes due to hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions. Okay, now the thing is, what is hydrophilic and hydrophobic? When you look at the polypeptide chain, some parts will be hydrophilic, water loving, and some parts will be hydrophobic. So as it folds, what happens? Usually the hydrophilic regions will be, right, I mean facing the exterior, and the hydrophobic regions will go inside. Even if you look at cell membrane structure, right, the channel proteins are there. Okay, now when you look at, we say this as amphipathic molecule. What is amphipathic? Okay, you find the dual charges, right? Why? When if I have to draw a diagram, okay, now this is the cell membrane structure. Okay, you can see, you know, it's a cell membrane is a fluid mosaic model. Fluid means the molecules of phospholipid bilayer can change the position, and mosaic means proteins are randomly embedded. So this is the protein that is embedded in the phospholipid bilayer. Okay, now this protein is called as amphipathic molecule. Why? Because if you look at, so this region and this region, usually you find, I'll shade this, these regions, so they will contain hydrophilic parts, because as the folding occurs, what happens? So this one, right, these hydrophilic regions will come to the surface, and this will be hydrophobic. So that what happens? The fatty acid tails, they are hydrophobic, so they will form a kind of stable structure. That's the reason. Okay, now, so coming to the tertiary structure, already I told you what is tertiary structure. The complex three-dimensional globular shape attained by the polypeptide chain by twisting and folding around itself, and this shape is maintained by hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions and bonding between the residual groups. Okay, now if they ask you to describe this, right, tertiary structure, or let's say globular protein, or what you say is, you know, a structure of enzyme, so the first sentence you are going to write. Okay, so it is made up of polypeptide chain composed of amino acids repeatedly joined by peptide bonds during condensation reactions. So first sentence you are going to write, right, it is made up of polypeptide chain composed of what? Amino acids repeatedly joined by peptide bonds during condensation reactions. Okay, then you say, right, the complex three-dimensional globular shape. So whatever I told you, just write. Okay, and two important factors you are going to write. So what are the things which are going to maintain the three-dimensional structure? One is what it says, the bonding between the residual groups. Okay, what are the bondings? Bonds that are seen, okay, hydrogen bond, ionic, and disulfide bond. And the second one is, right, folding due to hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions. Okay, when you talk about, see, out of the three bonds, right, hydrogen bond, ionic bond, and the disulfide bond, see, disulfide bond is the strongest out of all the three. But why we talk about hydrogen bond always? Because there are so many hydrogen bonds, so what happens? It will be stronger, because the number of hydrogen, bonds are more, so we say. Okay, and remember, these hydrogen bonds and ionic bonds can be disrupted by, right, let us say the situations or the wherever they are. For example, right, pH, right, we know, right, enzymes, as the temperature increases, enzyme get denatured. So what is denaturing? Denaturing here, we refer to the bonding between the residual groups. Usually the hydrogen bond, the ionic bond, they can be disrupted easily. Right? They are the ones which are going to maintain a three-dimensional structure actually. So what happens if they are broken down or disrupted? What happens? The shape is lost. So that's why enzymes cannot function right at a high temperature. And see, each enzyme works right effectively at a range of pH. You know that. So if you subject them for example, if it works effectively in let's say pepsin, it works effectively in acidic pH. So what do you do? Subject them to alkaline pH. What happens? It can't. Why? Because the bonds, especially ionic bond and hydrogen bond, get disrupted. So this is how it is. Likewise, the same, right? When they're subject to different temperatures, or let us say high temperature, what happens? They get denatured. This is the reason. Okay. Now, so if they ask about enzyme, what you do? You just say, right? It's made up of polypeptide chain composed of amino acid, repeatedly joined by peptide bond during condensation reaction. Then complex structure you write. And one more point you are going to write for enzyme specifically. They have a specific shape of the active site. They have specific shape of active site. So please just mention this for the enzymes. Okay. Now, and some of the tertiary structures are not only made up of a single polypeptide chain, but also one or more also. Okay. Now, so let me go to the quaternary structure. So what is this quaternary structure of protein? So quaternary structure means when two or more polypeptide chains. See, until tertiary structure, we can say it will be only one polypeptide chain, right, folding, twisting, and folding around itself. But when we talk about the quaternary structure, it is not just a single chain. It may be maybe 2 chains, or 3 chains, or 4 chains. Okay, so 3 chains. If I have to give example, collagen. Right, collagen you find different parts of the body. Okay, right. So collagen is one let's say quaternary structure. Okay, and how is it made up of? 3 polypeptide chains. Remember, each chain is around 1,000 amino acids long. Each one is around 1,000 amino acids long. So what happens? It will be twisting around each other and held by hydrogen bonds. If they ask about collagen, this is what I'm going to say. So when 3 polypeptide chains are twisted around each other and held by what you say is the hydrogen bonds, and even you can say ionic bonds, so it forms the collagen. But coming to the other one, right, according to specification, they ask about hemoglobin. So hemoglobin, when you look at it, is made up of 4 chains. What are the 4 chains? 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. And when you look at alpha chains, each alpha chain is made up of 141 amino acids. Each one is made up of 141 amino acids. When you look at the beta chains, each chain is made up of 146 amino acids. Right? Okay, and especially this particular hemoglobin, it's a conjugated protein. What is a conjugated protein? Conjugated protein means a protein in association with a non-protein part. So the protein part, hemoglobin, okay, when you look at heme is the iron part, it's a prosthetic group which can bind to the oxygen and carry, and globin the protein part. So hemoglobin, so globin, protein part, and the non-protein part, the heme. So it's what you say is conjugated protein. Okay. Now, so hemoglobin, when you look at, so there are 4 chains, and each chain will have one heme, right? Heme region. It means so it can bind to oxygen. So what happens? Each hemoglobin molecule, because it has 4 chains, each hemoglobin molecule is supposed to carry or has the ability to carry 4 oxygen molecules. Okay. And now, so very, very important question, right? One of the repeatedly asked questions in the paper, Unit 1 paper regarding proteins. Okay, why is the primary structure important in determining the tertiary structure of proteins? Why is the primary structure? Already we know what is the primary structure. The sequence of amino acids found in a polypeptide chain joined by peptide bonds during condensation reactions. Okay, why is the primary structure important in determining the tertiary structure of proteins? Okay, now I'm going to mess up with this word protein, right? You will see for yourself why is it important. Okay, okay, now so you can see here protein, assume this is the primary structure. Okay, each letter is one amino acid. Okay, protein. See, why is primary structure so important in determining the tertiary structure, right? Primary structure is the sequence of amino acids found in a polypeptide chain. If the sequence of amino acid is same, if I am going to write PROTEIN, each, right, each amino acid, right, it's going to be in the same order. So, right, when the sequence of amino acid is same, the bonding it undergoes between the residual groups. What are the bonds? Already you know, right? Hydrogen bond, ionic bond, disulfide bond will be the same, and the folding it undergoes due to hydrophilic and hydrophobic interaction will be the same. The structure of the protein will be the same. If it is enzyme, the shape of the active site will be the same. What happens if the sequence of amino acid changes? Look at this. I just messed up with this. Okay, ROPTIN. Can I roptin? Right? Can I still call this as protein? I see, change the sequence. Look at this, right? NATOB, right? NATOB. I can't call this as protein anymore because the sequence of amino acids, the sequence of these alphabets have changed. I can't pronounce the same way I'm pronouncing this one, right? Protein, we know, right? So this is important actually. Okay. Now, if the sequence of amino acids changes, what happens? The bonding between the residual group will change. When the bonding changes, the folding changes, the structure of protein changes, right? If it is in the shape of the active site changes. So that's why you find a lot of genetic defects relating to protein, because slight change, right? Let's take thalassemia. Slight change in the right amino acids, sequence. What happens? It brings about a big trouble with the kids who are suffering from thalassemia. No? Oxygen carrying capacity decrease. You know that. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next one. Okay. So let's go to some of the comparisons between, let's say, fibrous proteins and globular proteins. Okay. So fibrous proteins, when you look at, they are long and narrow, while the globular proteins, we know they are spherical, rounded, or it's three-dimensional. Okay, so in terms of shape and in terms of solubility in water, okay, fibrous proteins are insoluble. Fibrous proteins are insoluble while in water, while globular proteins are soluble in water. So that's the second one. And in terms of sensitivity, okay, which one is more sensitive? Let's say globular proteins are more sensitive to temperature. They are more sensitive to pH, right? So they will be affected easily. Already I told you one example. Okay, supposing, right, if you subject the enzyme, there is a range of temperature it can work effectively. For example, let's say 25 to 35, right? For example, supposing if you subject this enzyme to a very high temperature, around 45, 50, what happens? Enzyme get denatured. So, right, globular proteins can be easily, let's say, denatured or whatever. Right? So they are very sensitive to temperature and pH, whereas fibrous proteins, they are less sensitive to this one. And coming to the role, what do they do? Fibrous protein, usually they are structural. For example, when you look at collagen, those things, they offer strength and support. Okay. Whereas when you look at the globular proteins, so some of them are enzymes, some of them are hormones, right? And some of them what shall I say? Functional proteins, for example, hemoglobin, right? It transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, and things. Okay. Now the examples for fibrous protein, you can say collagen, keratin, and the examples for globular proteins, you can say hemoglobin, insulin, all the enzymes, right? Whatever enzymes you can say, the hormones you can say. Okay. Now, so what we had seen so far, okay? So we started with the structure of amino acid, right? Description of amino acid. Then if they give the residual group, how to add that to the amino acid and draw the structure. Then we went to the condensation reaction as well as hydrolysis reaction. So what is the bond formed here? The bond formed is peptide bond always. Okay. Then we went to primary structure. So what is the primary structure we had seen? The secondary structure we had seen, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure. Especially quaternary structure, when we discuss about collagen, we discuss about hemoglobin, and why is the primary structure so important in determining the tertiary structure of protein? Very, very important question that also we discuss. And right, we are just concluding with the comparisons between fibrous proteins and the globular proteins. Okay. So thanks for watching, dear students. Okay, you have any doubts, you can ask us very well. Thank you.